Episode 6, Legacies. We open on a bank robbery. There is a group of robbers. They're all wearing masks that have playing cards on them. So there's Ace, King, and Jack. Some lady who's like one of the hostages alerts the robbers that there's a cop there. So the robbers shoot the cop. At the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Diggle are talking. Oliver wants to go after some guy called Scott Morgan, who is portrayed here by Preminger. He's on the list. Diggle is like, maybe this time we go after the bank robbers. They just shot the cop, and he's critically injured, so like Diggle wants to go after the bank robbers, but Oliver insists that they don't go after street criminals. Their focus should be on the list. In the cave, Oliver has just been left alone. He's sitting in this cave. He has no way out. He's also, healing from his torture wounds, and he has a vision of his father. Title screen. Tommy goes to CNRI and is like, "Hey Laurel, do you want to fly out for a romantic night at Coast City?" And she's like, "Sounds great, but I can't, okay, because CNRI's largest donor just cut their funding. So we're kind of like screwed right now, so I can't exactly leave work and just go to Coast City with you, Tommy." At the Queen Mansion, Moira talks to Thea and Oliver, and she says Carter Bowen and his family are coming over for brunch tomorrow. It's been so long since we've seen the Bowens. Please come to this brunch. Now, Carter Bowen, portrayed here by Johnny from NCT. Carter Bowen is like the prodigal son. He can do no wrong. He's super smart. He aced all his classes. He graduated from college. Oliver and Thea both don't like Carter because they're both not exactly prodigal children. They agree to go to the brunch. Just then, Diggle calls Oliver and says that guy Scott Morgan that he was about to go after has just tried to kill himself, and he's at the hospital. So Oliver rushes to the hospital, only to find out that Diggle lied straight to his face, and Scott Morgan's not in the hospital. Stan Washington, the cop that was shot by the robbers, is in the hospital, and Oliver is now paying for the cop's medical treatment. Tommy shows up at the Queen Mansion. He wanted to talk to Oliver, but Oliver just left to go, deal with the hospital thing. So he talks to Thea, and Tommy says to Thea, "Hey, I need some advice. I kind of like this girl, and I don't know how to show her that I like her, And he's obviously talking about Laurel. Thea then is like, "Okay, to impress this girl, whoever she may be, you just need to do something to show her. Make a grand gesture," is essentially what Thea tells Tommy to do. Oliver reluctantly agrees that, okay, this time we'll go after the robbers. We'll put Scott Morgan on the back burner for another day. They find some evidence left in the crime scene because one of the robbers was wearing a high school class ring, and he punched somebody and it left a mark. They figure out exactly who this guy is by the mark on that high school ring. Tommy shows up at CNRI and he's like, "Laurel, guess who's throwing you a fundraiser?" And she's like, "Not you, bitch. Get the fuck out of here." And Joanna's like, whoa, Laurel, did you not just hear what he said? Tell the man thank you for your money, okay? And let's just accept that because we need money, Laurel. What the hell? So Laurel agrees to allow Tommy to do a fundraiser for CNRI. Oliver does some more deductive research, finds out who the robbers are. He finds out that they're not just a crew, they're an actual family. Father, son, mother, other son. He figures out that the woman who alerted the robbers about the cop in the first time, she's actually the wife, and she's part of the whole thing. But oopsie poopsie, he's late for brunch, so he has to go to that now. So we're at brunch, and Carter and his family are there, and Carter is so smart, he's publishing a science book. Oliver has to head out because the robbers are robbing another bank, so he does have to leave the brunch early. This does upset both Moira and Thea, because Oliver promised to be at this brunch. Where are you going? The vigilante goes to stop the robbery, but the robbers do get away. We get a scene of the family of robbers saying that that's it. They're not going to rob any more banks. But Ace insists that they need one more bank. They just need one more score. Turns out that the king of this family of playing card robbers is called Derek Reston. He used to work for Queen Industrial, which got shut down, so he obviously doesn't work there anymore. After the factory closed, Mr. Reston lost his home and his income. Back on the island, Oliver is hallucinating that his father is there, and Oliver's done. He just wants to end it all. He finds the gun that his father used on the boat, and he puts it up to his own head, and he's about to pull the trigger. Back in the present, Oliver goes to chat with Derek Reston, and he tries to offer him a real job. Tommy is talking to Laurel. He asks her what flavor cake she wants for her fundraiser, chocolate or vanilla, and she says carrot. Laurel! Tommy then takes this opportunity to tell Laurel that she's not like the other girls. She's a real person with real feelings, and he wants to be her real boyfriend. When Oliver's talking to Derek Reston, he offers him a job. Derek turns the job down, and then Oliver also plants a bug on Derek Reston, so we overhear the bank robbers talking about their next robbery. Tommy meets Laurel at the benefit. She thanks him for throwing the fundraiser, and it seems like they're getting along. Then Tommy goes to talk to Thea to thank her because throwing the fundraiser was Thea's idea. After all, she said to make a grand gesture, but Thea is pissed because she thought that Tommy was gonna make a grand gesture for her. But it was actually Laurel? Oh my god. Now Thea's angry and sad, and she starts drinking. Carter Bowen is also at this event, and he starts dancing with Laurel, and that pisses Tommy off because what the fuck, this Carter Bowen dude just shows up and steals his girl. Oliver is also at this benefit, and he goes to talk to his mother, and he's like, Mom, I'm so sorry I had to skip out on brunch early, and I'm sorry I was late. And then John Diggle shows up and says, hey, Oliver, we gotta go. And so he has to ditch the fundraiser early. Moira's pissed. At the robbery, the vigilante and John, they have everything handled. They're about to catch these guys, but then a cop shows up and shoots Derek Reston. It's a fatal injury, and Oliver blames himself for what happened to Derek Reston. Back on the island in the cave, Oliver realizes that he just hallucinated the whole thing. He tries to pull the trigger, but there's no gun, there's no bullets. Okay, he's still alive, unfortunately. Back at the benefit party, Thea drunkenly admits she's drunk off her ass, and she admits to Tommy that she thought that he had a crush on her, and he's like, Thea, that's fucking gross. You're like a sister to me. He takes Thea outside, she fucking vomits, and then Laurel shows up. She's like, Tommy, I was only dancing with Carter because he made a large donation, so I'm gonna owe you a dance later. Tommy's like, I will hold you to that, and he takes Thea home. Diggle dramatically tells Oliver that Derek Reston's death was not his fault. And he also reveals that the cop that was shot earlier woke up. So, he's good. Back in the cave on the island, PTSD Oliver has that little notebook and he's running out of firewood. So he starts ripping pages out of the notebook and throwing them on the fire. And when the pages of the notebook touch the heat of the flames, words start appearing on the pages, and Oliver stops burning the pages, and he discovers that there's invisible ink on the pages, and it's the list of names. To apologize to his mother, Oliver decides to take Moira to the Big Belly Burger, and she eats a burger with a fork and a knife, and that's how the episode ends. Oliver made 9 dramatic speeches. He had 6 smart remarks, and only 8 dramatic pauses. I promise you, the dramatic pause number is going to go up significantly. He didn't kill anyone in this episode. Episode 7, Muse of Fire. Thea calls Oliver and reminds him that he has a date with Moira, like they're going out to lunch, and Oliver's on the way when he gets the call, and he sees Moira across the street. He's walking across the street to go greet his mother, who is talking to a man named Paul Capone. She's rejecting a business proposal from him, and before Oliver can cross the street, someone on a motorcycle drives by, shoots Paul Capone, and then keeps on driving. Title screen. After the shooting happened, Moira got a concussion. So Moira's in the hospital, she has a concussion, Thea is there, and Thea's pissed off because Oliver didn't immediately run to help Moira during the shooting. He fucking ran towards the shooter and left his mother in the street. Then Detective Lance shows up and says, Moira wasn't the target. Paul Capone was the target. Tommy shows up at Laurel's house with some sushi, and he asks her on their first official date. She says yes. Oliver finds out that the target of the shooting, Paul Capone, who is now dead, was working for a man named Frank Bertinelli, portrayed by Wenlock on the board. Frank Bertinelli is the second of 3 Franks that we get introduced to throughout the story. Can't wait for the third one. Frank Bertinelli is a mob boss. Paul Capone, the guy who got shot, worked for him. Turns out the shooter is actually a woman. This woman, to be exact. And she's got an entire corkboard, much like this one, in her little room, wherever the fuck she is, with string and X's, and she puts an X over Paul Capone's face, and there's more, okay? There are way more people on her corkboard. Woo. Thea wants to go clubbing or something, but Oliver says, "Ooh, Thea, do you mind staying home with Mom? She's got that concussion, and I have places to be, and so thanks for doing this for me, Thea," and he just leaves her there. Tommy shows up before he leaves, and he says, "Oliver, I'm going on a date with Laurel. I just thought you should know." And Oliver's like, "Cool." Oliver goes to see Frank Bertinelli, and guess who else is at Frank Bertinelli's house when he gets there? The bitch who shot Paul Capone. Moira and Thea are hanging out in Moira's room because she has a fucking concussion, so she can't do anything. They're watching TV, and Moira says to Thea to not be so hard on Oliver, because they don't know what he went through on that island. Oliver, who's at Frank Bertinelli's mansion, because he's also rich, they were having a talk about business, you know, they were having a business discussion, but Frank has to leave early, and his daughter, Helena, is going to finish the business meeting. She's going to close out the meeting with Oliver. They're going to go out to dinner. So the shooter is Frank Bertinelli's daughter, Helena Bertinelli. Frank goes to meet with the Triad, and the Triad says, "We didn't kill Paul Capone. Like, that was not us, okay? So leave us out of this." Lance had put a bug on Frank Bertinelli, so him and the rest of the police department heard that entire exchange with the Triad. At dinner, Oliver and Helena are hitting it off. Too bad she's a psychopath. Well, so is he. So maybe they are actually perfect for each other. Maybe I ship Alina Helliver. What's the ship name? Somebody clue me in. Tommy and Laurel are on their own date, and they're also hitting it off. They're having a great and wonderful time, and then Tommy gives the waiter his card, and the waiter is actually an actor from my favorite TV show, The 100. I'm blanking on this guy's name, but he's Abby's little assistant guy. He's like, "Abby, I got the scalpel." Anyway, he's the waiter in this universe. He's the waiter, and he says, "Yo, Tommy, your card declined. Tommy, you're poor." And Tommy's like, "What the fuck? This must be some kind of mistake. Like, my card would not decline. I have a trust fund. I am a billionaire." Oliver is having a wonderful time at dinner, and Helena confides in Oliver about a crucible that she faced in her life. You know, everyone knows about Oliver and the island, but not everyone knows about what happened to Helena Bertinelli. She tells Oliver that her fiancé was murdered. They share that moment, they bond over their trauma, and when they leave the dinner, Helena says, "Oliver, you need to be careful with my father." The mystery man shows up to see Moira Queen in her house, and he must be some kind of family friend, because Thea let him in the door! Who is this guy? We may never know. Oliver gets a call from Diggle after his date, and Diggle's like, "Yo, Oliver, the guy that owns that restaurant that you were just at, he's gonna be targeted by one of Frank Bertinelli's mob guys for some reason. I don't know. But it's just awful convenient." Anyway, so Oliver goes back to try and save the owner of the Italian restaurant, and you know who else shows up there? The sexy shooter lady, who Oliver still doesn't know is Helena at this point. During a fight between Oliver and Helena in a mask, Oliver wins, and he takes off Helena's mask and finds out that it's her. Lance pulls up security footage from the restaurant after the attack, and he sees that Oliver and Helena were there. And he goes to confront Oliver, but this time he's not confronting him because he thinks he's the vigilante. He's confronting him to tell him to stay away from Helena Bertinelli because the Bertinelli family is bad fucking news. So Lance is actually looking out for Oliver. Looks like I lied about never knowing who the mystery man is, because we're about to fucking find out, okay? Brace yourselves, this is insane. So Tommy Merlyn goes home to his mansion, and he says, "Dad, what the fuck happened to my card, bro? Where's my money, man?" And his dad is at a fencing lesson. He's fencing right now, so he's wearing a full-on fencing uniform. Like, we don't see his face, we don't hear his voice or nothing. So Tommy just interrupts his fencing lesson and is like, "Dad, where's my money? What'd you do to my money? My trust fund, dude." And then his dad dramatically removes his fencing helmet, and it's this fucking guy, bro! This dude is Malcolm Merlyn, Tommy's fucking father. What the hell is happening right now? How many secret identities are we gonna learn in this episode, bro? Crazy. We got Helena Bertinelli. We got Malcolm Merlyn. We're cooking with gas. Who's next? I'm ready. Give me another one. Tommy delivers my favorite line of the entire season. He's arguing with his dad, and Tommy's like, give me my money back, and Malcolm's like, no, and so Tommy gets so mad, he gets up in his face, and he goes, it's my trust fund! Tommy does not get his money back. Oliver follows Helena to the graveyard, where she takes him to see Michael's grave. Her fiancé's name is Michael. Helena and Oliver get kidnapped by some of Frank's thugs. They're tied up. Frank's mobster friend is like, listen, bitch, your husband, your fiance, Michael, he was gathering evidence. He had a whole laptop full of evidence, and he was gonna bring it to the cops. So, yeah, I killed him, alright? I shot him in the head, and he's fucking dead now, and you will be too, if you try and do anything, okay? Helena reveals that that laptop wasn't Michael's laptop, it was her laptop. She was the one who was gathering evidence against her own father, okay? And so they wrongfully killed Michael, and now Helena is dead set on getting her revenge. She is going to take out everyone in Frank Bertinelli's organization from the inside out. So she and Oliver break free from their restraints. They take down all the mobster guys. Oliver kills 2 of them. Helena kills 1 of them. And after she kills him, she says, nobody can know my secret. Tommy then goes to Laurel's house, and he's like, Laurel, I've been cut off. I'm poor. I have no fucking money. And she's like, oh, that sucks, Tommy. You can have some of my leftover pizza. Walter decides to come home because he misses Moira, and then Thea goes to Oliver, and she says, hey, Oliver, even if it's not one of us in the family, like, you need to find somebody that you can share your secrets with. Oliver takes that advice, and he goes to find Helena Bertinelli, and he tells Helena that he's the hood guy, and then they have sex. For episode 7, Oliver made 7 dramatic speeches. He made 7 smart remarks. Oh my god, lucky 7s. But he had 8 dramatic pauses. Oops, broke the streak. He also killed 2 people. Malcolm Merlyn has entered the fucking chat, bitch. Oh, it's about to get so real. It's about to go so crazy. Episode 8. Vendetta. We open with Helena Bertinelli. She wants to kill the head of the triad. His name is Zishan. He is portrayed here by Rumple Goocher. Oliver says, there's a better way, okay? We don't have to kill people. Let me show you how to get real justice. Oliver takes Helena to the Big Belly Burger, and he explains that they don't have to kill people all the time. They can get justice without killing people. And when Helena says, hey buddy, you kill people all the freaking time, he's like, I only kill people when it is absolutely necessary. Tell that to the, like, over 30 people you've killed already, okay? Back at the Arrow Cave, Diggle is pissed that Oliver told Helena about him being the vigilante, because now that Diggle's involved, this whole vigilante thing isn't just Oliver's secret anymore, and Oliver's like, she's lost, Diggle. And whether she knows it or not, I can save her. Title screen. Walter and Moira are having a discussion about the whole yacht situation, and they agree to be honest with each other going forward. Back at Frank's mansion, Frank is like, I'm gonna kill the son of a bitch who went after Nick, the mobster from the other episode. Frank's pissed off. Oliver shows up to take Helena on a little date to the graveyard. He shows Helena Sarah's grave. He trauma dumps a little bit, and then he takes her back to the Arrow Cave with him. Back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver is trying to teach Helena Bertinelli how to shoot an arrow. She sucks ass at it, but Oliver is really good, and we need to show the audience that Oliver is really good with a bow and arrow, because we've never seen that before. So Helena throws her fucking Stanley Cup in the air, and Oliver shoots an arrow through it, and then it gets stuck on the ceiling. I don't think that's how physics works. Then Diggle shows up in the Arrow Cave, and he does not like that Helena is there. Helena tries to talk to him, and he, like, tells her to basically fuck herself, okay? And he's mad at Oliver. He's like, bro, she should not be here. He says that if Helena stays involved, then he's gonna quit the crusade. There's a new fancy restaurant in town. It's called Table Salt. That doesn't sound very fancy, but okay. And Tommy Merlyn thinks it's a great idea to book a reservation at the new fancy restaurant for him and Laurel, even though he famously has $0. And Laurel brings this up. She's like, hey, Tommy, remember that you don't have any money. Like, how are we paying for this? He's like, don't worry about it, Laurel. And then she suggests that he should ask Oliver for a job at his nightclub, because Oliver is famously opening up a nightclub. So Laurel's like, hey, Tommy, just ask Oliver for a job. It's so simple. Felicity kept looking into the whole Tempest situation, and so she goes to see Walter, and she wants to tell him what she's found, and Walter is like, no, okay, stop looking into this, or I'll fire you. And Felicity's like, heard, got you, I'm done, okay? And she leaves. Helena looked at Oliver's list of names, and there was a name on there of a man called Anthony Venza, and Helena doesn't like that guy, and so Oliver and Helena decide that they're gonna go after Anthony Venza, but Oliver has made Helena promise not to kill anyone, so they're gonna do this bloodlessly. They're gonna get in, they're gonna bust Anthony's drug organization, and then the cops are gonna arrest Anthony Venza, and no one's gonna die. Before they go out a-huntin', Oliver orders Helena Bertinelli a purple archer costume from Wish.com. Oliver and Helena go and break up Anthony Venza's little drug ring, nobody dies, and then Anthony gets put in prison, and Oliver's like, see, Helena? I told you we could do this without killing anyone. Like, dude, that'd be a fucking first for you, too. Walter still doesn't completely trust Moira, so he goes snooping around in her room and he finds the little book. And he notices on the book that there's a little weird symbol on it. And, Felicity Smoke showed him the exact same symbol earlier today. And now he's, like, wondering if Moira's still lying to him. Tommy and Laurel show up at Table Salt, okay? Tommy has no money, so he's not able to bribe the hostess to get him his table faster. Laurel's pissed because she's hungry, and they've been waiting for like an hour, okay? Then Oliver and Helena show up for a date because Oliver still has money, and they run into Tommy and Laurel, and Helena does not know the relationship between these three MFers, okay? She's not aware of the effing love triangle that's happening on the board here. So she's like, why don't you guys come sit with us? And Tommy and Oliver are like, absolutely not, no. But Laurel's fucking hungry and she's ready to start drama. So she's like, yeah. So they all sit at a table together. How could this possibly go wrong? And Helena figures out what's going on. She's a little put off. She's a little confused. She's like, wait, what the hell is wrong with all of you guys? Like, do you not know any other people? Laurel then brings up the job that Tommy was supposed to ask Oliver about. And turns out Tommy didn't ask Oliver for a job. Laurel gets mad because he needs money. Like, why wouldn't you just ask Oliver like your friends? And then Tommy gets pissed and he leaves the table, and so Laurel leaves with him. Outside, Tommy and Laurel have an argument where Laurel's like, what the hell, dude? Why didn't you ask Oliver for a job? Why are you getting so upset about this? And Tommy's like, listen, I want to be in a relationship with you, but like, I can't be with you because I will always come second place to Oliver Queen. Like, whenever something goes wrong, you always run to Oliver. If I'm gonna be in a relationship with you, I can't be second place to your ex. He breaks up with her. Oliver and Helena are also arguing as well because she does not like the whole situation. Then Oliver says, how was I supposed to know it was gonna get so weird in there? Like, do you have face blindness? Did you forget who Laurel and Tommy were? Did you forget? But Helena, she might be a crazy, insane killer. She has standards for herself, and I respect that, so she leaves. Tommy goes to Laurel's house to apologize for blowing up at her at dinner, and he confesses to her that he feels like he doesn't have anything to bring to the table, to bring to the relationship without his trust fund, and Laurel's like, listen, we can make this work. And they kiss and make up. In a conversation later with Diggle, Oliver reveals that he can't fix Helena. Diggle was right. Diggle is always fucking right, okay? Let's get that straight. Helena Bertinelli is now fully back off the rails, and she goes to kill Zishan from the Triad. She kills him, and then she also kills everybody else that's there except for one guy, and she tells that guy to go tell the rest of the Triad that Frank Bertinelli sent her, so that she wants to start a war, the Triad and Frank Bertinelli. That's her big master plan. Walter calls Felicity back to his office and he asks her to actually start looking into Tempest again, but be really discreet, because this is dangerous things they're meddling with. Oliver finds Zishan of the Triad's dead body and declares a war on Helena. China White shows up at the Bertinelli residence, and she's not fucking happy. She kills a lot of people on her way in, and she's looking for Frank, because she just heard that Frank had Zishan killed, and she's not happy about that. So we've got China White, Frank Bertinelli, Helena Bertinelli, and Oliver Queen all here fighting each other. Helena shoots Frank with her crossbow. Then Oliver shoots the crossbow out of Helena's hands. Then, Oliver and Helena do some hand-to-hand karate chop combat until that's broken up by Frank Bertinelli grabbing the crossbow from the ground and shooting Helena with it. Oliver pulls Helena's body away from the scene before the cops show up, and he takes her back to the Arrow Cave. When Helena wakes up, Oliver reveals that Frank Bertinelli has been arrested, so they don't need to go after him anymore, but that's not enough for Helena. She doesn't want her father behind bars. She wants her father gone, okay? She won't rest until Frank Bertinelli's corpse is resting. And Oliver doesn't want her to do this, but she says that she will reveal Oliver's secret if he tries to get in her way. At Big Belly Burger, Oliver and John Diggle are chilling. They're eating chili cheese fries with jalapenos. They have a touching little moment about how both of them have terrible love lives, and they share the chili cheese fries. Felicity discovers that the notebook Walter gave her has secret writing on it. The episode ends with Tommy and Oliver having a little heart-to-heart in which Oliver says, "Tommy, my trust fund is your trust fund." Oliver agrees to let Tommy be his general manager. The end. This episode is our first Felicity lore episode, alright? So in this episode, Felicity reveals that she's afraid of kangaroos and thusly will not go to Australia. She also hates mysteries. In episode 8, Oliver makes 11 dramatic speeches. He has 5 smart remarks and, holy fucking balls, 30 dramatic pauses. Wowie wow, and he kills 3 people in this episode. Oliver, I thought we weren't killing people. What's that? What's with that? What's the 3 for, Oliver? I thought we weren't killing people anymore. Episode 9, New Year's End. There's a new archer in town. The other archer. And he kills Adam Hunt. Remember Adam Hunt from episode 1? Well, now he's dead. So that sucks for Adam, I guess. Oliver and Diggle are training together in the Arrow Cave, and Oliver doesn't realize that it's Christmas time because he didn't have Christmas on the island. Back on the island, Yao Fei comes back to the cave where Oliver is, and he brings General Fires to the cave. And he's like kidnapped Fires, brings him to the cave, and Yao Fei is like, "This man will get you on a plane and he'll get you off the island." So there's a dinner party at the Queen's house, I believe, and everyone's there. Walter's there. He gets a call from Felicity, and Felicity says that there's a guy on the list. His name is Doug Miller, and he works for Queen Consolidated, so she's worried that Doug Miller is going to be the vigilante's next target. Lieutenant Frank reveals to everyone that the vigilante just killed Adam Hunt. At the crime scene, Detective Lance deduces that it wasn't the actual hood guy who killed Adam Hunt. It was a copycat archer, because the arrows that were left around at the crime scene had black tips instead of green ones. Title screen. Oliver thinks it'll be a fun idea to mail Detective Lance a burner phone so that he can call the vigilante, and Oliver calls Lance as the vigilante and asks if he can have one of the arrows for evidence. Lance says, "No." Walter confronts Doug Miller because he's worried that the archer, the vigilante, might be coming after him. And he just tells him to stay sharp and stay safe. Oliver asks Thea why there aren't any Christmas decorations up at the Queen Mansion, and Thea's like, "We don't celebrate Christmas. Like, we haven't celebrated Christmas at all since you left, and since Dad died, like, it's kind of hard for us." And Oliver's like, "Well, I'm back now, so this year, we're gonna change that. I'm gonna throw a Christmas party." Thea does not seem too excited for this. Back on the island, Yao Fei has General Fires at gunpoint. He's like, Fires is leading them to this plane that was promised. And on the way, Fires tells Oliver that Lian-Yu is a prison island. Okay, the Japanese used it as a prison island, and Yao Fei, he's one of the fucking prisoners, okay? That man is dangerous. Malcolm Merlyn goes to confront Moira Queen about Walter because Malcolm knows that Walter knows about the list. And he says, "Moira, if you don't get Walter under control, I'll deal with him myself. Please stop threatening Moira Queen. Could you let her be?" Earlier in the week, the green hood guy, the vigilante, went after a man named Nelson Ravish, and now the other archer, the copycat archer, has also gone after Nelson Ravish, and this time he killed him. Lance and Lieutenant Pike are discussing the copycat archer, but Lieutenant Pike does not want the public to know that there are 2 crazy archers running around. So he wants the public to just think that the vigilante is now killing people. Okay, instead of spreading panic about 2 archers, let's just let everyone think it's just 1 crazy archer. Lance is like, we can't lie to the people, okay? And in response, Frank is like, okay, cool, you're off the case. And Lance is pissed because that's his case, bro. Like, that's the archer. Like, his entire goal in life is to catch this fucking archer, and you can't just take him off the case. But you can't do that. So Lance is like, fuck it. I want to take this copycat SOB down. I'm gonna mail an arrow to the vigilante. Oliver takes the arrow that he got from Detective Lance to Felicity Smoke, and he asks Felicity to track it down for him. He wishes her a Merry Christmas, and she says, I'm Jewish. So that's awkward. Tommy shows up at Laurel's house. He has a gift for her. Her father is there. He's not happy that Laurel's dating Tommy. But Tommy gives Laurel a gift, and he invites her to be his date to Oliver's Christmas party. The gift is really sweet. It's a framed photo of Sarah and her dead sister and her dad. Like, where'd he get that? Felicity got an address from where the arrows were shipped, and Oliver goes to that address, but it was a trap set by the other archer. This motherfucker was trying to draw this motherfucker out, okay? And it worked. Oliver narrowly escaped. He could have been killed there. That was a close one. At Oliver's party, Moira and Walter talk, and Moira promises Walter that at the end of the Christmas party, she's gonna tell him everything, okay? No more secrets. Oliver tells Laurel that he's happy that she's dating Tommy. Oliver goes to find Thea, and he catches her hooking up with some guy called Shane. And Oliver's pissed because he threw this party for her, but she's up in her room hooking up with some random guy. Like, you should be downstairs enjoying the party. And Thea's like, fuck you, Oliver. I didn't ask for this Christmas party. I wanted you to not throw the Christmas party, actually. So you can't get mad at me for not wanting to enjoy it. And then she just leaves. Diggle then goes to Oliver and is like, hey buddy, we got a problem. That other archer, he's got hostages, and he's gonna kill 1 hostage every hour until you show up to confront him. Back on the island, Oliver and Yao Fei were led into Fire's trap. They get ambushed by a bunch of Fire's men, and Yao Fei gets captured, but Oliver gets away. Oliver suits up, and he goes to save the hostages. He manages to save the hostages, but in the process, he gets shot in the back 3 times by the other archer. This motherfucker is not playing around. I wonder who that could be. I wonder if we'll ever find out who that is. And then Diggle shows up and is able to save him. Oliver was nearly unmasked in that moment. If Diggle hadn't been there, mask would have come off, Oliver's secret would have been revealed, the show could have ended. Dig brings Oliver to the hospital, his whole family is there, and Dig says that Oliver got in a motorcycle accident. Everybody in the family all hugs it out for Christmas. Oh yeah, you know how I said we weren't gonna find out who the other archer is anytime soon? It's time to find out who the other archer is. It's fucking Malcolm Merlyn! Because of course it's Malcolm Merlyn. What's next? Malcolm's gonna take off his eye patch and reveal that he's actually been Floyd Lawton the whole time. What's next? Malcolm Merlyn is Oliver Queen. What's next? Malcolm Merlyn was trained by a League of Assassins. Malcolm Merlyn kidnaps Walter Steele upon Moira's request. Moira asks him to kidnap Walter, and he brings him to some undisclosed location, and that's wild. He mentions to Moira that the thing they're planning, whatever this conspiracy is, it's gonna kill hundreds of people. And he's like, he seems boastful of that, like, he seems pretty happy that it's gonna kill hundreds of people. Like, what is your damage, dude? Who hurt you? In the hospital, Oliver reveals to John Diggle that when he was fighting the other archer revealed to him that the names on the book were not written there by Robert. Like, somebody else wrote them. It wasn't his father who wrote the names on the list. Oliver now wants to take down the other archer. That is his main mission in this point. Felicity lore for this episode. Felicity, Jewish, okay? That will be mentioned again. The stats for episode 9. Oliver made 10 dramatic speeches, okay? That's a lot. He made 11 smart remarks. He paused 36 times. Dude. And he didn't kill anyone this episode, so that's cool. Honestly, Arrow is now the Malcolm Merlyn show. Like, let's just be for real. Why is this man attractive? Why is it every time that I look at Malcolm Merlyn, I go, yeah, he might be a murderer, but at least he's hot, though, so, like, you know, it cancels out. Episode 10, Burned. We open on a fire, and of course, there are firefighters there, putting the fire out. Among the firefighters is Danny. Danny's doing a great job putting out the fire when all of a sudden, Rumpelgoocher shows up.
Maximus!
And Rumpelgoocher in this instance is another fireman. Rumpelgoocher goes up to Danny, douses him in some kind of flammable liquid, and then pushes him into the fire, and Danny is for sure dead. Then we go to the Arrow Cave, where we have a fun little montage of Oliver with his bare abs doing some push-ups, but it's also interspersed with clips from the previous episode's battle with the other archer. And if you recall, Oliver lost that battle. He was very nearly defeated. He's not exactly on his A game right now. The other archer is really getting into his head. Then Diggle arrives, and he announces that it has been 6 weeks since Walter went missing, and there's no proof of life, there's no ransom. Diggle assumes that Walter is dead. But Oliver's like, we can't think that way. And then Diggle asks Oliver, hey, when are you gonna suit up? It's been 6 weeks since you put your hood on and went out and did some list checking, you know? So, like, when are you gonna do that again? And Oliver's like, my family needs me right now, Dig. Then we get another flashback to the island. Oliver is running for his life. Remember, they were just captured by fires. So Oliver is running for his life, but Yao Fei gets captured by the man in the mask. Title screen. At CNRI, it's just a normal day. Laurel and Joanna are having a chat, but then Detective Lance rolls up to CNRI and he says, hey Joanna, your brother Danny, the firefighter, he died. And Joanna is very upset. Oliver and Thea, they're at home. They're trying to get Moira to, like, get out of the house, but she refuses to because she is in her depression era. She is in her Twilight, sitting in the chair as the months go by era because she's so distraught about Walter. They're watching the news, and there is a news story about the vigilante, and apparently the vigilante hasn't been active for the past 6 months, and Thea makes a comment that it looks like everyone is disappearing, and Oliver's just like, Tommy's at Laurel's house. He heard the bad news about the dead firefighter too. He was going to ask Laurel for a drawer, but then he tried to not ask about it because the day was not right. But then Laurel's like, okay, even if nobody died today, the answer would still be no. Suddenly, Joanna shows up at Laurel's house and she's like, Laurel, my brother didn't just die on duty, like, he was murdered, okay? The results of the autopsy came back. He was doused in turpentine. He was doused in that. And, yeah, it was a murder, okay? Laurel goes to her father with this new information from Joanna, and Lance is like, well, it was a fire. Laurel, fires are hot. Like, what the hell do you want me to do? But he says that he can't help her, and Laurel spots the vigilante phone sitting on Lance's desk, and she steals it. Laurel calls the vigilante, and then Oliver shows up dressed as the Hood to answer her call. She says, hey, Mr. Vigilante, my friend's brother was murdered in a fire, and the police can't do anything about it, but, like, I know it was a murder. Can you look into this? And the Hood is like, yeah, I'll do that. Back at the Arrow Cave, Oliver tells Diggle to look into the fireman thing, and then if he comes up with any evidence, to just send it to the police. Diggle's like, hey, Oliver, when are you gonna get back in the field? Like, why aren't you going to get this information? And Oliver completely dodges his question and heads upstairs to talk to Tommy, who wants to throw a fundraiser for the fire department at their club. The club is still under construction, but they have enough space there to throw a fundraiser. Detective Lance figures out that Laurel stole the vigilante phone, so he goes to confront her, and he's like, hey, why'd you do that? You're not supposed to have that. Give me it back. And Laurel says, I would give it back to you, but the vigilante, he took it from me when we met up, so I can't call him again. Ned Foster, the current COO of Queen Consolidated, calls up Moira Queen and is like, hey, you need to replace Walter as CEO. It has been 6 weeks. Walter is gone. Stock prices are plummeting. We need a new CEO, and it needs to be you, Moira. But she doesn't want to. She's like, no, Walter's still out there. Like, we'll find him. We don't need to replace him yet. Diggle tries again to get Oliver to help look into the fireman thing, but Oliver still refuses to help. Back on the island, Oliver is setting up a fire. He's making a fire. How stupid do you have to be to do that? There's people after you. But he's building a fire, and then of course one of the soldiers who is actively looking for him finds the fire, and then he radios in on a walkie that the Oliver Queen is close by. So he's screwed. There's another fire going on actively, and Oliver suits up as the Hood to go and try and save this guy. But he is too late, I'm afraid. When he gets there, he's really off his game. He's still getting flashbacks from the other archer kicking his ass. The masked fireman, Rumpelgoocher, is able to push another fireman into the flames and kill him, and then he also just knocks Oliver out and leaves him in the burning building. Oliver does manage to get some important clues from this interaction. It wasn't a total waste of time. He sees that the fireman, the evil fireman, has a firefly tattoo on his hand, and he's also been severely burned. Back on the island, Oliver gets caught by one of Fire's soldiers, and they fight, and then Oliver gets thrown into the river. Oliver tells Laurel the information that he found out about the killer with the tattoo, and he also knows what type of car he drives. Oliver looked into it, and he tells Laurel that the killer has to be someone from the Engine Company 15 squad, because all of those guys had firefly tattoos on their hands. Diggle plays therapist with Oliver. He's like, listen, the other archer threw you off your game. And Oliver's like, I don't need this right now, and he just ignores Diggle. Like, Diggle's trying to help you, bro. Oliver and Laurel run into each other, and Laurel tells Oliver that Tommy wants a drawer in her house, and Oliver's like, that's great, right? You've been dating for months now, like, I mean, isn't this good? And Laurel's like, I'm an all or nothing type of girl, like, and I don't know if I'm ready to go that far with Tommy. Like, first it's a drawer, and then he's moving in, and then we have 3 children running around the house. Like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. Laurel goes up to the fire chief, and she's like, I think one of the firefly firemen are behind the killings, okay? And they're targeting people who were also fireflies, and like, maybe you can help me figure out who this guy is. But the fire chief does not really want to talk about this. They bring up something called the No-Del Tower fire, and that was apparently a really big fire. It killed 6 firemen, and after the No-Del Tower, the firefly squad, they disbanded. Oliver and Laurel are both there. Then Laurel says, I gotta go. She walks 10 steps away from Oliver, pulls out the vigilante phone, and literally calls Oliver, who walks 10 steps in the other direction, pulls out his own vigilante phone, and answers her. But now Oliver is like, he's committed to taking down this evil fireman. So back on the island, Oliver survives the encounter with the soldier, and he wakes up, he's swimming along in the river, he's fighting for his life again. Thea goes up to Moira and is like, hey mom, look, your depression era, it's time for it to end. You need to be CEO, and you need to, like, be a girl boss again. And Moira's like, no, Thea, let me be depressed, okay? Just let me be sad. And they fight, and then Thea leaves. In the No-Del Tower fire incident, there was a firefighter named Garfield Linz. He was one of the Fireflies, and he allegedly died in this tower incident. But he might not be as dead as everyone thinks he is. That seems to be a trend for this show. Oliver and Diggle have another chat where Diggle tries to, like, make Oliver talk about his feelings and have him discuss the whole other Archer incident. And Oliver finally admits that he feels like now that he's back home and he's got family and he's got friends, and if someone finds out his identity, then that's going to make every single one of the people in his life a target. And he doesn't want the people in his lives to become targets for villains like the other Archer. And Diggle's like, listen, I know you see your family and your friends as a weakness, but they make you stronger. We're at the fundraiser. Laurel and Tommy are having a discussion. Laurel refers to Tommy wanting a drawer as Drawergate. The conversation about Drawergate gets interrupted by Oliver, who takes Laurel to go talk to the fire chief because the fire chief is here. Oliver and Laurel go to talk to the fire chief, and Oliver is like, I think you've been hiding something, okay? So tell us the true story about the No-Del Tower. I want to know your trauma. And the fire chief admits that Garfield Linz, the firefighter who supposedly died in this incident, he called for backup. Like, there were still people in this building, and Garfield was like, we can get them out, but he needed backup. And the fire chief was like, no, the building's gonna come down, like, we need you to get out of there. And then Garfield got himself trapped inside the fire, and nobody went in to get him. Oliver explains to the fire chief that Garfield Linz, he's alive, okay, and he is coming for the fire chief next. Guess what? Garfield Linz is in the building. He's here. He's got his fucking blowtorch, and he is ready to burn the building down. Pretty crazy thing to do, considering there's a bunch of firemen around. There's definitely a fire truck or 2 outside this building. Like, the fire has started. Garfield Linz is there. He unmasks himself. You can finally see his deformed, scarred face. And Garfield Linz is all dramatic, and he's like, you left me in there to die. You left me to burn. So now you'll burn. It's really giving Katniss Everdeen core. Oliver suits up. He goes back in. Garfield Linz douses the fire chief in turpentine or whatever the hell. And then he's about to set him on fire. He lights a match and he throws it at the fire chief, but just in the nick of time, an arrow soars through the air, and it knocks the match out of the way, and then the fire chief is able to run away, and Oliver confronts Garfield Linz, and then Garfield Linz is like, I don't want to live anymore, and he walks into the fire, and Oliver just freaking stands there. Crazy that a man just died in your club. Back at the Queen Mansion, Moira Queen finally puts her girl boss cap back on, and she decides that she is going to be the CEO of Queen Consolidated. Woohoo! I love Moira. I'm glad she's back on her feet. At CNRI, Joanna comes up to Laurel and she's like, I'm taking a leave of grief because I'm sad because my brother is dead. And she gives Laurel her brother's badge and says, Laurel, can you get this to the vigilante? Detective Lance stops by and he talks to Laurel and he apologizes to her for blowing up at her about the whole vigilante phone thing, and then she gives him the phone back, and then he's like, no, you should keep it, and he gives her the phone back, and then Lance leaves, but it turns out Lance bugged the vigilante phone and gave it back to Laurel, so the next time Laurel calls the vigilante, the police will freaking be there, okay? Back on the island, Oliver is out of the river. The soldier that was attacking him is dead, lying dead in the grass. So Oliver pickpockets him, he steals his clothes, and he also finds a map of the island. This episode ends with Oliver telling Diggle that he's back in his game and he is ready to start getting back to his vigilante behaviors. Oliver gave 9 dramatic speeches, 7 smart remarks, 30 dramatic pauses, and he killed 1 person. Episode 11, Trust but Verify. We open with a robbery. There's tear gas and grenade launchers involved. It ends with the robbers killing the 2 drivers and then stealing something from the truck. At the Queen Manor, it's revealed that it's almost Thea's birthday and she's asking Moira for a car. Oliver also hears about the robbery from a news report. Oliver and John Diggle meet at the Arrow Cave to discuss the robberies, and Oliver thinks that the man behind these robberies is Ted Gaynor, portrayed by Wenlock on the board. Diggle's like, Ted Gaynor? No, can't possibly be him. He was my commanding officer back when we were in Afghanistan, and Ted Gaynor, he's not a bad guy. You got the wrong guy. But Oliver's like, listen, Dig, Ted's on the list. So maybe he's not the man you think he is. Back on the island, Oliver is now cosplaying as one of the soldiers. He's got full-on soldier cosplay. He rolls up to their camp and he's like, hey, I'm new. I just got here and I'm supposed to be transferring a prisoner. Like his name's Yao Fei, I think. And can you tell me where he is? And then one of the other soldiers is like, yeah, we're about to head over to that camp anyway. You can hitch a ride with me. They hop in the car. Who else is in the car? General Fires. Oh, in a phone call between Malcolm and Tommy, Malcolm's like, hey son, sorry I cut you off, but do you want to come to dinner so we can talk about it? And Tommy's like, no, and then he hangs up. Oliver hoods up, and he goes to talk to Ted Gaynor, and he has Ted Gaynor's within his sights. He's about to say, Ted Gaynor, you have failed this city, but then guess who shows up to wreck everything? Jonathan Diggle. Title screen. Oliver, still in the hood, makes a quick speedy getaway, and then that leaves Diggle and Gaynor talking together. Dig's like, sup, Ted? It's been so long. And he's like, do you have any idea why the vigilante is coming after you? And Gaynor's like, oh, fuck if I know. He probably just has the wrong guy. Back in the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Diggle are fighting, and Diggle is like, who gives a fuck if Ted Gaynor is on your list? What does the list even mean? You've just discovered that your father didn't even write this list. So why do you trust this list so much? You trust this list more than me. And Oliver's like, my father left me a message, a recording of himself, and he explained what the list was to me, and I trust this list, okay? And Diggle's mad. He's like, what other secrets are you keeping from me? The next thing Oliver's probably gonna say is like, oh, I actually wasn't on the island for all 5 years. That would be really crazy. Diggle is mad, and he's like, Oliver, I'm gonna take that job at Blackhawk. I'm gonna prove to you that Ted Gaynor is an innocent man. Back on the island, Oliver is driving to this new camp with Fires, and Fires questions him. It's Thea's 18th birthday, and Moira and Thea are having a cute little girl's day. They're driving somewhere Thea wants to go. Moira gets a phone call in the middle of a talk with Thea, and guess who it is? It's Malcolm Merlyn, and he's like, Moira, we need to talk, okay? You need to drop whatever the fuck you're doing and get to my office because we have business to discuss. And Thea's pissed. This is Thea's day, bro. Why are you doing this to her? Laurel and Tommy have a little talk and they discuss Malcolm's phone call, and Laurel's like, why don't you go to the dinner? I'll go with you. Maybe Malcolm is trying to be genuine. Maybe he's actually trying to be your father. And Tommy's like, oh, Laurel, you don't know this man. He's like, Laurel, you have no idea. This man is fucking unhinged, okay? There's no way he's actually trying to be my father. But he's like, okay, Laurel, fine. If it'll shut you up, we'll go to the dinner. Moira meets with Malcolm at Merlyn Global, which is Malcolm's company. I need to talk about the Merlyn Global building really fast. The Merlyn Global building is terrible, okay? It is a completely glass structure. The entire building is just windows. I hate this building so much. Could you imagine an entire building made out of nothing but glass? Moira meets with Malcolm in the nasty ass glass Merlyn Global building, and she's like, what the hell do you want? And he's like, we got a problem. This guy Carl Ballard, he's trying to gentrify the Glades, and we can't have that. I need you to talk to him. And then Moira's like, fine, but first, I need you to prove to me that Walter's still alive. And then Malcolm's like, sure, I can hook you up with that. And while they're having this conversation, Malcolm puts his hand on Moira's shoulder. And guess who's watching this happen? Thea! Oh no, Thea saw that. Oh, Thea will remember that. We're at Big Belly Burger. I didn't mention this, but Carly works at Big Belly Burger, so that's why she's always there when we go to Big Belly Burger. Carly was Diggle's dead brother's wife, okay? So she was married to Andy. And Diggle clearly has some kind of crush on her, and it's just as weird as it sounds, but she also has some kind of crush on him back, so it's a mutual weirdness, okay? And Ted Gaynor and Diggle, they're having dinner or lunch or whatever it is, they're having a meal together at Big Belly Burger. Carly comes by to take their order. Ted Gaynor can sense that there's something odd going on between the two of them, and then somebody else shows up in the middle of their meeting. This guy, Preminger, in the show he's called Knox. Diggle also knows Knox from the military, and he never liked Knox. Knox is bad fucking news, okay? When Preminger rolls up, it's never good. Oliver is at the Queen Mansion, and he's having absolutely no luck trying to hack into Black Hawk's computer systems, because remember, Black Hawk is Ted Gaynor's little company thing. He's trying to hack into Black Hawk. He can't fucking do it. He's given up, and then Thea walks in, and she's like, Ollie, we have a fucking problem. Ollie, the world is ending. Ollie, Mom is having an affair with Malcolm Merlyn. Swear to God. And Oliver's like, Thea, no, that's not happening. Mommy Moira would never. Thea's like, no, Ollie, you don't understand. This is not the first time this has happened, okay? This happened before, like before Robert died. She was cheating with Malcolm before, like while Robert was still alive, and Thea thinks she clocked it, okay? And Oliver's like, Thea, chill. I will talk to Mom. So he goes to talk to Moira, and he's like, Mother, Thea thinks you're cheating on Walter with Malcolm Merlyn. Is that true? And Moira's like, I would never. What would make her think that? Oh my God. I'm a woman of God. She wasn't cheating on Robert. Robert was cheating on her. Uno reverse card. And Oliver's like, why don't you just tell Thea that? And she's like, because I want Thea to have a good memory of her father. Like, I don't want Thea to go around this world thinking that her father is some kind of cheater. But honestly, I think there are way worse things that you could tell Thea about her father. Oliver's like, okay, well then what were you doing with Malcolm Merlyn earlier when Thea saw you? And she's like, I was just talking to him for like business advice. Back on the island, Fires figures out that the new recruit is actually Oliver Queen, and so he locks him up in a cage next to Yalfei. Laurel and Tommy decide to go to dinner with Malcolm Merlyn, okay? We're at a fancy little restaurant, and the conversation takes a turn. Somebody brought up Malcolm's wife, Rebecca, Tommy's mother. Somebody brought her up, and we learned in this scene that Rebecca Merlyn was murdered. She was murdered in the Glades, and Malcolm still seems pretty hung up on that. Oliver cannot crack this Black Hawk security thing, so he takes it to Felicity, and he lies to her about what exactly he's trying to do, and he's like, can you just get in here and then see if you can find something? And she's like, hey, whatever. We're back at dinner with Malcolm Merlyn. The conversation shifts. This dinner was not to reconnect with Tommy. This dinner had ulterior fucking motives, okay? Malcolm's like, Tommy, I need you to sign this. He passes him a paper. What's the paper for? Oh, Malcolm wants to tear down Rebecca's clinic that's in the Glades. So Rebecca Merlyn, before she died, she had a free clinic in the Glades. She was such a philanthropist. She was a very helpful, very wonderful lady. It's a shame she was murdered. She seems wonderful, but also she had to be a little fucked up if she married Malcolm Merlyn. Malcolm's like, I need you to sign this paper so that we can tear down your mom's free clinic. And Tommy is pissed. He's like, what the fuck, dude? Why are we trying to tear that down, okay? Like, that's Mom's clinic. What is your effing problem, bro? And then they start fighting again. Tommy stands up. Malcolm stands up. Laurel's, like, trying to calm Tommy down, but it's not working. Tommy looks his father dead in the fucking eyes, and he says, "You've never changed, and you never will. It's about time I learned that and stopped letting you disappoint me." Tommy, can you come say that to my dad for me, please? Honestly? Tommy and I are fucking soul sisters, okay? Felicity calls Oliver. She's like, "Hey, this laptop you gave me, there's some criminal activity on here. Like, there's stuff on here about armed robberies with tear gas and grenade launchers. We should take this to the police." And Oliver's like, "I'll handle it. Don't take this to anyone. I will get it to the police personally." Oliver goes to break up the next heist, but he's unsuccessful. They still get away. We're at Thea's birthday party at the Queen Mansion. Oliver is talking to Diggle. Diggle says, "Hey, Oliver, it's not Ted Gaynor who is involved in these attacks. It's Knox." Oliver's like, "Yeah, good work, Dig," and he secretly plants a bug on him. Diggle leaves to go deal with Ted Gaynor and Knox. Oliver stays at the party. Thea, it's her party, remember, so Thea's there. Her friend is giving her a birthday gift of some Vertigo, and Vertigo is Arrow's Jingle Jangle, if you know what I mean. Vertigo is the hot new drug on the streets, and Thea is about to take some. She is going upstairs to hide the Vertigo. On her way up the stairs, she sees Moira and Malcolm. They don't see Thea. Malcolm shows Moira proof of Walter's life, and then Moira agrees to go do the thing that he wanted. And then Malcolm touches her again in a suggestive manner, and Thea sees that, and Malcolm leaves, and Thea goes straight to her mom, and she's like, "I fucking knew it! I caught you, bitch! You can't, what is that? How do you explain that? What do you got? I saw you! You're cheating, you're a cheater! Once a cheater, always a cheater! I knew it! I wish it was you who died on that boat!" And so then Thea takes her Vertigo, and she pops some pills and leaves the party, and Moira's just standing there like, "Thea, well, it's not what it looks like," but it's pretty much exactly what it looks like. Meanwhile, at Black Hawk, Diggle figures out that, Oliver was right, and Ted Gaynor actually is evil. Which is crazy. So Ted Gaynor kidnapped Carly from Big Belly Burger, and he's holding Carly hostage, and then he's forcing Diggle to help him do another robbery. And so under duress, Diggle suits up and helps Ted Gaynor and his evil goons commit a robbery. Oliver overhears everything that's going on because he put a bug on Diggle. During the heist, Diggle refuses to shoot the driver of the car. He refuses to help. So that leads to a scene where Carly is now running for her life from Ted Gaynor, and Diggle is now running after Ted Gaynor, and then Diggle and Ted Gaynor are on each other and they're fighting. Diggle pulls a gun on him and he threatens Gaynor, but ultimately it's an arrow that enters Ted Gaynor's chest, not a bullet. Thea's bopped up on Vertigo, and she's driving down the street in her brand new car that Moira got her. She swerves to avoid oncoming traffic, crashes the car off the side of the road, and totals it. Moira and Oliver arrive at the hospital to see Thea, she's okay. She's got maybe a slight concussion or something. But Thea, when she sees Moira, she's like, "I don't want you here. Get out of here. You're not my mom." This scene is crazy. Tommy and Laurel are having a discussion about what just happened with Malcolm, and Tommy is talking, and it starts to become a voiceover where Tommy's talking to Laurel, but what we're seeing on screen is Malcolm Merlyn. And so we're seeing Malcolm Merlyn holding an old family photo. Tommy says in voiceover, as we're watching Malcolm Merlyn hold this photo, Tommy says he only cares about himself. And as he says that, the camera shifts so that instead of seeing the family photo, we're seeing Malcolm Merlyn's own reflection. That's an insane shot. Like, that's so unhinged. Every single shot that he's in is literally just so evil. Like, it's so overtly evil, there's nothing subtle about that. Diggle and Oliver have a little heart-to-heart in the Arrow Cave, and Diggle's like, "Oliver, I'm sorry I didn't listen to you. Like, I really let my own personal feelings blind me in this moment, and it won't happen again." Thea's about to be discharged from the hospital, but she is soon arrested because her blood work came back, and she tested positive for Vertigo. Oop, Thea Queen, your mom's cheating on Walter, and you're under arrest. Oop, Thea's not having a great birthday. Happy birthday, Thea! Back on the island, Oliver is now in the cage, but Yao Fei is not in the cage anymore. It appears that Yao Fei is now working for Fires, and he locked Oliver in the cage. We got a little bit of Felicity lore in this episode. She loves red wine, okay? And now for the stats. Oliver gave 5 dramatic speeches, he gave 6 smart remarks, and he had 26 dramatic pauses. He also killed 1 person. Episode 12. Vertigo. The episode starts with the hood guy tracking down some Vertigo pushers. He corners this Vertigo pusher and he's like, who's your supplier? Tell me who your supplier is. The guy who makes Vertigo is called the Count. Oliver returns to the Arrow Cave and says, hey Diggle, the guy we're looking for is called the Count. And Diggle's like, that name is stupider than the hood. And I agree. He also says, hey Oliver, maybe chill out because Thea has her hearing coming up and you should probably not miss that. The judge announces that Thea Dearden Queen is not going to be allowed a plea, okay? Not allowed. Because if the world knows that even Thea Queen can't get away with using Vertigo, then they're going to be less likely to want to use it themselves. And, you know, hey, Judge is absolutely right for that. Thea is still mad at Moira because she's still not over the whole cheating thing. And Oliver is like, hey, Moira, maybe we should tell Thea about Dad being a cheater so that she stops hating you. And Moira's like, no, can't do that. Back on the island, Oliver is in the cage, Yao Fei is outside of the cage, and Oliver's like, hey buddy, let me out. And Yao Fei does not. Title screen. Oliver decides to go to the cops as Oliver, and he's like, I need some info on the Count. Like, we really got to put the Count down, because if we can get the Count off the streets, then maybe the judge won't be so harsh on Thea. And he asks McKenna Hall, cop extraordinaire. He meets her, and it turns out they're old friends, actually. And so she tells Oliver everything they know about the Count, which is not a lot. Now we get our first look at the Count. I drew him because I'm kind of obsessed with the Count, actually. He's like the Walmart version of the Joker. The Count is confronting the Vertigo pusher who gave the vigilante his name, and he injects the Vertigo pusher with a syringe full of Vertigo in its purest form, and essentially it tricks the brain into thinking that you're in an immense amount of pain, but you're actually not. And so then the Count gives the Vertigo pusher a gun with one bullet in it, and the Vertigo pusher shoots himself with it because the pain is so unbearable. Laurel and Tommy are hanging out at Laurel's house. Laurel's reading an article about Thea Queen's trial. Just then, Oliver knocks on the door. Tommy is awkwardly standing like a third wheel for this conversation. Oliver asks Laurel if there's anything that she can do to help Thea, because Laurel is famously a lawyer. And Laurel's like, my dad, he's owed a favor by the judge, so maybe I can talk to him. Laurel goes to her father, and initially Quinnen is like, nope, I'm not helping the Queens. Fuck the Queens. But then Laurel is like, hey, you remember Sarah? Sarah was a lot like Thea. Maybe you should help Thea, because doesn't she remind you of Sarah, Daddy? And Quinnen is like, fine, but I'm not helping them after this. Oliver and Diggle roll up to the Bratva garage, okay? Oliver does not tell Diggle what's about to happen, okay? He does not clue Diggle in. He's like, Dig, just go with the flow. And then Oliver's like, hey, Alexi, I would like to buy some drugs. So can you hook us up with Vertigo? Like, you know the Count, right? You can get us a meeting with the Count. Diggle is fucking standing there like, Oliver, what the fuck is going on? Alexi agrees to set up a meeting between Oliver and the Count only if Oliver does something for him in return. He wants Oliver to kill a man, okay? And Oliver snaps this guy's neck right in front of Diggle. And Diggle's like, Oliver! But Oliver's like, shut the fuck up, Diggle. Back on the island, Oliver gets dragged into a fighting pit, and he gets put against Yao Fei. Back at the Bratva, turns out Oliver didn't actually kill that man right in front of Diggle. He just did a neat little trick that makes it seem like people are dead. Oliver wakes him up, and he tells Diggle to, like, help get this man out of the city. And then Diggle keeps making so many sarcastic remarks about how they're drug dealers now. At the Queen Mansion, Oliver and Laurel are sitting with Thea, and Laurel's explaining to her that her choices are she can either go to prison for life or do 500 hours of community service at CNRI with Laurel. Thea says, Oliver, I don't want to be your ex-girlfriend's office monkey, so I'll take jail. And Oliver and Laurel both know that she's only saying that to spite Moira. Thea wants to put Moira in as much distress as she possibly can, so she's willing to go to prison for life. So Oliver says, hey Thea, you're being a little bit dramatic. Mom's not a cheater. Dad was the cheater. And Moira overhears this, and she gets mad at Oliver. She's like, Oliver, I told you not to tell her that. And then Oliver's like, she had a right to know. But Thea doesn't want to believe it, and she storms out of the room, and she's upset. And then Diggle shows up, and he's like, yo, Oliver, drug deal tonight. Be there. We're at the drug deal. Oliver is there, Diggle is there, the Count rolls up. The Count strolls out of his car and he's like, wine is measured in the amount of years it ages, but vertigo is measured in lives. It took 56 lives to perfect this high. But the cops show up to bust them. Oh no, it's Lance and McKenna and they're here. So the Count tries to run away. Oliver runs after the Count. The Count and Oliver get into a fist fight. The Count wins because he takes a syringe full of vertigo and stabs Oliver in the chest with it. And then the Count runs away. And then Oliver is left writhing around on the steps, injected with vertigo. Diggle brings Oliver back to the Arrow Cave and then force feeds him some of the magic herbs from the crusty musty crate. Back on the island, Oliver is forced to fight Yao Fei. Oliver obviously loses this fight because Yao Fei is an actual fighter and Oliver Queen is just some guy who washed up on an island. It ends with Yao Fei killing Oliver. He strangles him. Oliver wakes up after his overdose. Diggle is like, hey buddy, you should probably just take a nap, okay? We don't know what's gonna happen to you. You were just injected with like more vertigo than I've ever seen in my life. And Oliver's like, no, I need to go see Thea. At the Queen Mansion, Oliver meets Detective Lance and McKenna there because they saw him at the drug deal. Oliver explains to them that he wasn't actually gonna buy drugs, okay? He was only doing it so that he could try and get a visual on the Count to help out the police's sketch artist, but he lies and said he never saw the man. McKenna goes to Oliver after Lance leaves, and she's like, Oliver, I'm sorry if you think I ratted you out, like I was just doing my job. And Oliver's like, nah, McKenna, you're chill, you're hot, and you're fine. So Lance agrees not to press any charges against Oliver. Moira shows back up and she starts arguing with Oliver again. She's still pissed off that Oliver told Thea about the cheating. And then Thea comes in and she's like, no, Mom, I'm glad he told me. I deserve to know. And then they have a touching moment where Moira's trying to explain that she didn't want to hurt Thea. And Thea's like, I'm okay with you again, Mom. I don't want to go to prison and I don't hate you anymore. Diggle shows up to talk to Oliver about the Count, but then Oliver passes out while he's trying to walk down the stairs. Back on the island, Yao Fei tosses his body over the side of a waterfall. Oliver and Diggle decide to go to Queen Consolidated to talk to Felicity Smoke. They give Felicity the syringe of vertigo and is like, hey, my friend made me this energy drink, but he didn't tell me what's in it. Can you run some tests and see what's in this? Felicity goes, if it's an energy drink, why is it in a syringe? To which Oliver replies, I ran out of sports bottles. Later in the Arrow Cave, Oliver and Diggle use the information they get from Felicity to track down the water supply where the Count is getting his water from because they assume that he must be close to a water source because he's gonna need a lot of water for his vertigo. Dude, I couldn't make this up if I tried. So they track him down based on the water in the vertigo. Diggle's like, Oliver, you can't go out in the field. You're compromised, okay? And Oliver's like, I do what I want. I'm the leader here. And Diggle's like, okay, boss, if you can shoot this tennis ball out of my hand, you're free to go. He holds up the tennis ball. Oliver doesn't even shoot. His aim is so shaky, he decides not even to shoot. And then Diggle's like, see, I told you so. And then Oliver's like, no, you didn't tell me shit. I'm just gonna leave the bow here, and I'm gonna go without the bow. Hood shows up without his bow to the Count's lab. The Count's elite employees are all there. They're dressed in basically nothing. They're basically naked, which is crazy considering they're dealing with dangerous chemicals, okay? What the fuck? OSHA would not be happy with you right now, Mr. Count. This time, when Oliver and the Count fight, Oliver pulls an Uno reverse card on him, and he injects the Count with his own vertigo right in the heart. An entire syringe of vertigo. The Count, down for the count. Anyway, the cops show up, and then Oliver flees the scene, and they get the Count. Thea changed her mind about jail, and she agrees to be Laurel's little assistant at CNRI. Oliver then gets another phone call from McKenna, who says that they got the Count, and they're both kind of flirting with each other on the phone. Lance goes to the hospital, and the Count is there, and he's not looking good. He's looking a little loony. He's giving Joker vibes, okay? And the doctor says to Detective Lance that the Count's probably gonna be messed up forever. Back on the island, Oliver gets pushed off the cliff face up, but he lands face down in the water. When he hits the water, the impact of that wakes him up from his little slumber that Yao Fei put him in, and he swims to shore, and he finds there's a map inside his pocket, and Yao Fei circled a location on there, and it says, survive. After staring out at the rain at the Big Belly Burger and contemplating its existence, Felicity shows up to talk to Oliver, and she shows Oliver the little book that Walter gave her. She's like, hey, Oliver, Walter gave me this book, and then he disappeared, and I think this book has something to do with it, and he said he got the book from your mom, and have you seen this before? And Oliver's like, I've never seen that before in my life, but Felicity, I'll figure this out. In this episode, Felicity tells a fun little story about one time a cat showed up at Queen Consolidated, and there was one of the security guards tased the cat, and then the office smelled like burnt cat hair for weeks. In this episode, Oliver gave 11 dramatic speeches, 6 smart remarks, 52 pauses! Okay, hang on. 52 dramatic pauses from Mr. Oliver Queen. He didn't kill anyone. I'm impressed.